So, welcome to tonight's Bill Plante Conversations program.
I don't think it's on.
You don't think it's on? Okay, now it's, yeah, I wasn't holding it right. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Lynn Garber-Grafrano. I am the founding executive director of Georgetown Village. And I have a rowdy membership. I want to welcome you to tonight's program. It's always thrilling for us to be able to host these programs and to welcome you to our Georgetown Village Square. I would like to now introduce our board president, and for some of you, you've not met Judith yet. This is her first formal program as our new board president, so let's hear it.
Ladies, I'm delighted that you're here, and hi to all the members, and hi to all the new faces, the non-members that are here. We want to get to know you better. We want you to get to know us better. So please grab one of us, talk to Lynn. Happy to talk to you about all the programming we do here, because it's a fun place. Let me start by saying, if you are a board member of Georgetown Village, can you just raise your hand? So you see, I see Mike, I see Betty, I see Fred, I see Sherry Ann, I see Michael. We have a lot of Mikes. Martha.
Emily.
Emily, sorry. Anyone else? So if you have a question, please grab one of us. Happy to answer any questions. And let me just put, I'm going to do a little public service announcement. If you haven't had your COVID vaccine, please get it. We want everyone here to be healthy and well this fall. And Dr. Fred, who's right there, wearing the mask, can answer
The
any
only one in
questions
a
you
mask.
may have about the COVID vaccine. So he's here, he's happy to help you, and thank you. I hope you enjoyed tonight, and big thanks to Robin for making this happen.
Thank
and
you.
obviously
Yeah.
for Jim for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. So, I also welcome you all, and I want to point out that if you are visiting on the high top on the way out, we do have membership packets if you'd like to learn more about joining us as a member. We also have surveys because we want to know how you found out about this great program, and so we can be sure to use that form again to be sure to get our information out. So it's like a 2-minute survey. It's really just for those of you who are not members, because the members hear from us all the time, and I know how they heard about this. So please take a minute or two. Let us know how you heard. We are thrilled to be hosting this Bill Plante Conversations with Jim Axelrod. Robin has been a founding member of the village, as was Bill, and Bill was a member of our board. And Bill believed in the concept of neighbors helping neighbors thrive and knowing that we are based as a volunteer-based organization. And speaking of our volunteers, I do want to give a shout out to our volunteers who were here since 4 o'clock this afternoon, setting up the food. They're standing in the back there. Let's hear it for them. When Robin offered us the opportunity to be able to continue Bill's legacy by hosting these programs, we jumped on it. We just could not think of a better way to honor Bill's memory and his legacy, because our village, we know, Bill used his connections during the pandemic. He got us Madeleine Albright to speak to Zoom in. We had Jose Andre, so he really helped keep us going and keep us vibrant at a time when we couldn't be out. So I thank Robin for giving us this opportunity. I thank you all for joining us, and Jim, thank you very much. And I know you're driving home afterwards, so safe travels.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. Welcome to, I think this is our third Bill Plante Conversations. It's hard to have that S on it, but I put that S on it on purpose. And for those of you who haven't heard this before, the reason I'm doing this is I wanted to create an opportunity to have conversations with the people that Bill knew well. Jim falls into that category. People that Bill worked with, and with people who are interested in things he was interested in, like wine, perhaps, and other things. So it was just an opportunity to continue the art of conversation, which I think Bill Plante was really, really, really good at, and to just sort of bring our friends from CBS into the Village Square and give you an opportunity to hear from some of these great people. So in terms of introductions, sorry, you're going to have to hold this too when you get to
sure,
it. Okay.
Sure.
So I'm not going to give you a lengthy introduction, but I am going to tell you that Jim Axelrod is a phenomenal CBS News correspondent. He is currently chief correspondent and executive editor of the Eye on America franchise. He did many things before he got to that particular position. I think you were embedded in Iraq, so you had a little war coverage going. But he was also at the White House. And what years were you there?
2006, 2009. Last
Okay.
3 years with the Bush.
3 years. He was there for 3 years. And that's probably where you got to know Bill pretty well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm going to hand it over to you.
Sure. And good evening, everybody. It's really a thrill to be here. I must say that, first of all, Robin gave me Bill's jacket to wear. And as soon as I put it on, I started to feel much more dapper, much classier, and suddenly I feel like I could recommend a nice Cabernet if I had to. None of which I could do before I put the jacket on. The thing about Bill Plante, as you've all heard many times and in many ways, is Bill was a very elegant man that could hit you if you didn't know anything about him. But anybody who was fortunate enough, as I was, to sit next to him for 3 years understood what a beautiful human being he was internally, in addition to being a dapper, classy,
Sexy.
wine kind of sexy. So Robin says, hey, I do this thing that helps us all remember Bill. And I'm like, when can I be there? Just tell me when. There is nobody it's a very tough business, the broadcasting business. It's nasty in many ways, brutal, sharp elbows. Everybody wants. There's not a whole lot of room for gentlemen. And I was minding my own business when I came to the White House, not really knowing a whole lot about political coverage or how to navigate the White House. And it's a little bit like going to the Vatican and having the Pope show you around. Bill not only helped me understand the basics of how to try to get somebody to return your call, but he also knew what the pressure was, especially on a guy with 3 young kids who had relocated his wife from somewhere she loved to somewhere she wasn't particularly looking forward to being. And having a husband who was out of the house 200 nights a year because he was on the road covering things. And Bill knew exactly when to say, let's go get dinner. And I would sit there and he would just listen and just help me process the pressures. This is my colleague. This is a man who knew more about my job than I could ever hope to know. So yes, I sat at what was the Caravel Hotel in Vietnam on the roof next to the guy who had reported from this place and listened to him tell me stories about Vietnam coverage. And I'm sure you've all had moments in your life, in your careers, certain moments where you're like, okay, I guess I'm doing all right. Sitting with Bill Plante there in Vietnam helped me, I got it out of body. I'm like, I'm sitting with Bill Plante and he's talking about Vietnam. That was beautiful as a moment of like, hey, you made it. But sitting with him in some restaurant in Washington, that was more meaningful to me because I was with a human being who wanted to know how he could help and how he could soothe my soul. I can't begin to tell you how rare that is. So it is my pleasure to be here in honor of the memory of this classy, elegant wine connoisseur who may not have chosen this because it wasn't his sort of first language, but he was an all-time mensch.
Well, we're delighted that you're here. And we were talking over breakfast in New York. So when the invitation was extended, I had to say, well, you have to come to Washington and do it. So he carved time out of his schedule to be able to do that. I think one of the things that I really would like to talk about tonight, we will talk about Eye on America and
Sure.
all of that. But something happened just within the last couple days at CBS. And the CBS management had to talk sternly with one of the correspondents about disposition and
Yeah.
behavior doing an interview. I'm going to let Jim explain what that is better, what happened, and what management said. But the reason I want to bring this up is that Bill Plante was always about the CBS News standards. Standards. And, you know, you have to kind of wonder, where did the standards come from? How are the standards shared among the people who work at CBS News? I mean, we kind of got it through osmosis, didn't we, Rayanne? You know, when we were there? I mean, somehow it's shared. So I really want to talk about standards, but I'd love for you
Sure.
to talk about what just
Sure.
went down.
Absolutely. 1,000%. Are you folks familiar with what's been happening with the Ta-Nehisi Coates interview and our CBS Mornings team? All right. Hugely important. Let me give you a thumbnail for those of you who don't know what happened. You know who Ta-Nehisi Coates is? Accomplished writer, critic, public intellectual. We had him. He has a new book out. It covers a lot of things, but there is a portion of the book that deals with Israel and the legitimacy, the idea of Israel almost as a political concept. And it is controversial. There's no question about it. He was on the CBS Morning News last week and had an interview, and he was pressed by the interviewer, our morning's anchor, Tony DeCopel, in a way that left some people, let's not even deal with the externals for the moment, left some people internally uncomfortable. They felt the tone wasn't clearly up to standards. Other people felt like, hey, wait a minute. He asked a lot of questions, tough questions, in a tough tone, and that's our job. So there was pressure building at CBS News to senior leadership to address this. And so Monday morning on our division-wide call, it was addressed by the CEO and the president of content. And it was leaked. The whole meeting was recorded by somebody and leaked to the media. So now there's this kind of public discussion going on about what's proper and what crosses a line. And it's actually, so you got the Wall Street Journal's written about it, the Times has written about it, I don't know who hasn't written about it. And it fits neatly into this. Everything, of course, in our contemporary culture is viewed through the eyes of whatever extreme you fall on. I happen to believe most people live on one side or the other of the middle, but it's the loudest voices on the extreme which always seem to dominate. So what was happening fit neatly into some narratives. Oh, the woke warriors have taken over CBS News, and CBS management is chastising this anchor for his tone because they have to fold to the woke warriors. That's one thing you hear. Other people saying, my goodness, he did nothing wrong. He was pushing for the truth in a way that's admirable and all of us should seek to accomplish. Consequently, the news division is engaged in a discussion about, was there anything wrong with this? Does it adhere to our principles and to our standards? Were they caving to a loud group of people who were uncomfortable? There was some implications. I want to be really clear about this. I'm just explaining what happened. But you started to see some people say, well, wait a minute, there was some race. Ta-Nehisi Coates is African American. The anchor was white. Two anchors of color sitting next to the white anchor. Hey, wait a minute. Is there some racial implications with some school of criticism? Other folks were like, hey, this is what it's supposed to be. Tough questions, tough answers. Mr. Coates handled himself fine. What's the issue? I would simply say this about what happened. We're in the light business, not the heat business. Bill Plante was never interested in heat. He was interested in light. I descend from the Bill Plante branch of the family tree. And I tried to get the young kids who are coming into the business to understand that Tim Russert used to say you should have no predetermined position on anything as a reporter. And this is something, one of the things about the media world, you used to spend, before you would get to CBS News, you might spend 7 to 10 years at a local affiliate learning the basics of telling a TV story. You might spend 5 to 7 years at CBS News covering floods and fires to learn, also to be watching every night and seeing how Bill Plante was doing it and others. And then you would have a fully formed sense of the ethics and the approach to our storytelling. So I take this all very seriously, and to the extent to which we were generating heat and not light, then I think we missed an opportunity to clarify and push hard against some of the things that were being raised in this book. And there were ways to ask questions that wouldn't have made the focus, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here with these two? And it would have been like, did you hear what the author said? And did you hear how he was pressed on it? So that's basically where we're at. And I'm sure it's not, go home and Google. It's a fascinating next. I wish it weren't so fascinating. CBS News likes to cover the news and not be the news. But it is sort of the next front that's opened up in this relentless culture war, where people find what's happening and try to fit it neatly into blacks and whites and forget that nuance, the gray, is where most of us live.
Thank you for that. So Eye on America. Eye on America is, I think they call it a franchise, right? It's a franchise.
Yeah.
Eye on America are the pieces that you see now 4 times a week on the evening news. It used to be, I think they just came on periodically, right?
Yep.
They come on 4 times a week. Somebody's in charge of them, making sure that we have good stories to cover. What I love about the Eye on America franchise is that it's an opportunity to tell a longer story and to not be so focused just on an incident or the news, but it's more like trends and the bigger picture and taking a bigger view. And it's, from a producer's point of view, that's really interesting and challenging, right? So it's a totally wonderful thing that CBS News is doing. I also love the name of it, Eye on America. Now, I know that the way this came about is it's the CBS Eye, that's the logo. How do we fit that into everything, right? I mean, I can already hear all the conversations, but it's really a wonderful umbrella. Eye on America.
Yeah.
So run with it.
So, yeah, Eye on America, see what we did there. It comes about because I think in 1991 we started this commitment to understanding that, the average news story you might see on the network news, minute and a half, minute 40, you'd be surprised. It's like 9 sentences and 3 sound bites is the usual minute 30. And what's happened, of course, everybody who has a phone knows, by 2024, you get to the new 6:30 news, and you know what's happened. We all have a sense. We've been checking our phones all day. So we have management now that I am as optimistic about as I've been at CBS 29 years. This is as optimistic a leadership team as I've ever worked for, because they are saying, hey, hang on a second. Maybe we don't need to be chasing everything people have been reading about all day. maybe we don't need to tell people what happened as much as what it means. Admittedly, an ambitious new approach, but they wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive. That maybe people such as yourselves, a minute 30, 8 sentences and 3 sound bites doesn't really tell you something. Maybe double that, maybe 3, maybe 3:30. Maybe we can get more context, more perspective. Maybe we can offer a variety to what you're picking up and reading on your phone all day. So the new CEO of CBS News calls me in her office, and she says, "In America, it's an old franchise and it's sort of fallen into disrepair. What's it on, once a month?" I said, "Yeah, once a month." She said, "Yeah, I asked the people running the news, I want to see it more. And they really haven't. So it's a problem." So yeah, it's going to be on more. "Really? How much more? Once a week?" She said, "Oh, no. It's going to be on 4 times a week." I'm like, "Oh, that poor son of a gun is going to have to run that. Who's that?" Basically, she was like, "Do you have a mirror?" And so we undertook this project to try to develop best-in-class daily newscast reporting that gives you a little more than just that minute and a half basic, here they come, there they go. And so we have this franchise now that we're attempting to, we are doing it 4 times a week, and I'm